keeping God's command, keeping God's
Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. I pray all of you are doing well. It's Midweek Meditations. Sorry for the brief tardiness, but it took me a little bit to get a few things in order for today, and I just want to appreciate you for tuning in and give me a moment to get myself together, get myself ready. But today, it's Midweek Meditations. We're in the middle of the week. We're going to meditate on things to make us better. We're going to get that spiritual recharge. And, for once in, a blue moon, we're going to actually talk about a hot topic in pop culture, in the popular media right now, which is that Jada and that Will Love, that definitely comes from a quote from a hip-hop verse, J. Cole, and the No Role Model song. But, it really makes you think. It really makes you think. And as we've been going over marriage for weeks now, back to back, we've been talking about this relationship stuff. And you can see why this is a heavy thing to meditate on. You got a lot of people dealing with a lot of things in relation to marriage, okay? So I want to thank y'all for tuning in today. And, as we get started, as we, pick up some steam for today, we got to make sure that we share the broadcast and give other people opportunity to tune in. So let me just check and make sure y'all can see me, y'all can hear me, and all of that good stuff. Make sure that we live, because, I'll be talking and y'all won't even be with me. Elena, shalom, I see you. Amita, I see you. Just give me a thumbs up or shalom back if you hear me. Jariah, Eleazar, Gabriel, Zuli, Jovan, Ariel. Thank y'all for tuning in. These are the names I can see off top, but I want to ask that you go ahead and share with a couple people. I'm about to make sure that I hit the share button real quick and share with my friends, my family, give them an opportunity to see it. And you know how I do. As we go throughout, we get a chance to hit that share button again and again because this is social media. We're probably distracted by some foolishness. The latest updates on somebody else's drama and their marriage and whatnot. And, you got to get reminded. You got to get reminded to come and join us for Midweek Meditations, where we get that spiritual recharge here in the middle of the week that help us get over that hump because Sabbath cannot come soon enough. So all praise to the Most High. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. And I just hit the share button. I just invited some folks. So hopefully you've done the same. If we all just share with 10 people, imagine how the numbers could change and the amount of people who could be affected by the word of God. Because this is what it's all about. It's spreading the gospel. It ain't about me. It's about spreading the gospel. And if this is a topic that you think and you know, because you're aware, you see people need to hear, then share it. If it's not something of value, it is what it is. But I know for a lot of people, they have been appreciating these topics of marriage. So, with that being said, let's talk about it a little bit. Let's talk about it. I see Joel in the building. Um, let's see. So, first, we're going to start out in Genesis 2 and 24. And the reason we're going into the Jada, uh, the Will Smith, the Jada Pinkett Smith scandal, if you will, is because what makes it such a hot topic, if you will, is the fact that so many people have so many opinions about somebody else's relationship. And 9 out of 10 of the people, in giving their own opinions, are giving opinions that really are not of the Lord, are giving thoughts that are not of the Lord. See, in order to have a successful marriage, you got to really focus on the tools and the keys to success. God has given us the tools and the keys to success. Now, many of us are, and I hate to say it, but we gotta bond right here. We gotta relate right here. Many of us are very successful at being unsuccessful. Most of us are good at making mistakes. Most of us are good at failing at things that need our attention in life. But for those of us who want to make that change, to turn around and actually start succeeding and start getting W's instead of L's, it really takes us to focus and to meditate on what God has told us, what the Lord has told us. In order to have a successful marriage, you got to understand what marriage actually is. See, one of the big issues in marriage today, and if you look at statistics, they'll show you that more and more people are getting divorced, less people are getting married, the value of marriage is not the same, and the definition of marriage is completely changing. But biblically, we got to stay biblical. That's what we do. That's what makes us different than the rest of the world, is we're going to stay biblical, right? Biblically, we got to understand, Rick Judah in the building, we got to understand that God has already told us what is special about marriage, what is important about marriage. And as people who call ourselves Israelites, as people who call ourselves followers of Christ, real Christians, right? As people who actually are trying to change their life in order to earn their slot in the kingdom. Because, see, some people don't even think they have to earn their slot. So for those of you who think that the kingdom is going to get handed to you and your fairy tale mindset in the world, that's your place, that's your opinion. But for those of you who really believe what I've been meditating on and what I've been putting out is the kingdom of heaven is going to be given to those who earn it by doing the things that qualify them, by being eligible. Like, the kingdom ain't just for any and everybody. You got to be eligible to receive the kingdom. Then your eligibility, you have to do certain things and meet certain criteria to get the kingdom. All praises to the Most High. You are one of the select few who win that slot, and not only being in the kingdom, but when I say being in the kingdom, I'm talking about being in that special seat of rulership of being in the kingdom. Because we're all in a kingdom right now. You guys may not be kings and priests at the moment. You may not be royalty at the moment, but you are in somebody's kingdom. And that's what's going to happen when the kingdom of heaven gets reestablished on earth with Christ as the head. People will be in the kingdom, but they will not be in the ruling class of the kingdom. So that's what we're getting into is, and if you want a successful marriage, that's one of the things that helps you get into the kingdom. You got to understand what marriage actually is. And some people, they have a moving target of what marriage is. Marriage changes. Their mindset changes over time. And when they first got married to 25 years into their marriage, maybe they don't view it the same way. Shalom, Gabrielle. But what we're going to do is go to Genesis 2 and 24, and we're going to establish what marriage is about. And make sure we keep that thought in our mind. Keep that thought in our mind. And while you get the chance, go ahead and hit that share button. Somebody has not shared it on YouTube or Facebook or Periscope, and they could have that opportunity to do so and make a friend or a family member, someone who needs it, receive a blessing. So all praises. All right, cool. Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. All right. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. See, the first criteria of marriage, and I know most of you should know this, but I got to say it because the climate that we're in, popular culture, is telling us that this Bible is outdated. The Bible says that a man is going to leave his father and his mother. And when he does that, he's going to cleave unto his wife. Meaning cleave unto a woman. So the first things that we got to make sure that we understand is marriage is between man and a woman. I'm going to say it again. Marriage is between man and a woman. Now, I know, and I got to be careful when I say it, right? Because you'll get counseled, right? Currently, in society that we live in, now marriage is just a union between two people. But biblically, from the beginning, the way God intended it, shout out to Hadessa, shout out to William Carter in the building, the way God intended for a marriage is for one wife, one husband, meaning one man, one woman, to cleave together to make one flesh. Now, if you go back up, we see in verse 21, the Lord caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof, and the rib which the Lord had taken from man made he a woman and brought her unto man. So when he brings a woman and a man together to become one flesh, they were already one of another. Being rejoined together spiritually was the thought. And Adam said, this is bone of my bones. This is a bone of my bones. It was my bone to begin with. I'm receiving it back. Flesh of my flesh, and she shall be called woman because she was taken of man. Biblically, this is where we at. But worldly, women think, and people think that, the creation story goes a different way. Let's say it like that. Therefore shall a man leave. Because this is how it went down, because this is how it goes, a man who was born of his parents, who was a fruit of their wombs, now has to call back unto him the missing component to his flesh, his wife. So that's why, therefore, a man leaves his father and mother and cleaves unto his wife so he can become one flesh again. The father and mother were one flesh. Shalom, Miriam. But now that child, that son, and that daughter have to come back to becoming one flesh by getting married, right? Now, at the end of it, you just got to understand that marriage is when a man and a woman unite as one. Now, we got to go to Malachi 2 and 14 now. Malachi 2 and 14. Yet ye say, therefore, because the Lord hath been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously, yet is she thy companion and the wife of thy covenant. So we go here because we have to understand that the wife that we get, men, we get, and it becomes a covenant among the people, among God, among all that witness. It becomes a covenant that you and this woman have agreed to no longer be one, but to become, no longer become two, but become one flesh. So there's a covenant, meaning an agreement, a deal, a pact, a contract. That's what the synonyms of the word covenant are, agreement. So when a husband and wife come together, they agree that they're going to come together and become a married couple. They make a deal. They make a pact. They make a contract. A contract is something that is legally enforceable, which lays out the terms of the arrangement that you are expected to facilitate. You're expected to adhere to. You're expected to uphold your end of the bargain of the deal. Now, these things, when you have a covenant, an agreement, a deal, a contract, a pact, etc., not only are they enforceable, but they're mutually beneficial. The husband benefits, the wife benefits, God benefits, the nation benefits. There's a lot of benefit that happens within a marriage. There's a lot of that. Now, a lot of us always think that in a marriage, the benefit kind of sits on one side of things, but we have to come to the understanding that the marriage, everybody is supposed to win. And it's your goal to not only get for yourself, but to increase the value for the other person as well. See, anybody that is a good negotiator understands that both parties should feel like they've won. It's somewhat bad negotiation when you get everything you want and you make the other person feel like a loser. The reason why is it makes it difficult for you to ever negotiate with that person again. But when you have positive negotiations and everyone's happy, how many times do you come back together and the negotiations get easier and easier because you know that each of you are wanting each other to succeed? That's a spirit that Israel got to have, because we're supposed to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. So would you want yourself to lose? No. So why would you want your neighbor to lose? But, see, God's people have a written agreement at the time of a marriage to seal a covenant. When we get married, there's a lot of argument in the Israelite community on what constitutes marriage. Is sex marriage? Do you have to go get a paperwork from the court system of Esau, etc.? Well, be mindful, it's a legal contract. It's a legal agreement, meaning enforceable by law. So if you do decide to get married and your marriage is not legally recognized and can't be enforced by law, just understand that perhaps you have not really fully done what you needed to do in regards to getting married. Now, someone's going to argue. Someone may feel differently. Someone may feel like, oh, it's the white man. Oh, no. Well, it doesn't matter what nation of people it is. It could be the Chinese man, the Arab man, wherever you are, whoever holds the legal power, you need to get that marriage recorded. Don't just put it on a nation of people, but you also have to put it on yourself and just the society that you live in. So it says, I was saying that the marriage is a signed agreement, right? When you really get married, is an agreement between God and his people at the time of marriage to seal that covenant. Okay, you agreed, now put it in writing, because God told you that whatever you receive in and whatever you give out, put it in writing. And as a man receiving a wife, getting that rib back, a possession, these are scriptural words here. You got to make sure you get that in writing. Same thing for the woman. It will behoove you to do so, because you want claim to an estate if something were to happen. But you can't do that if nobody knows that you actually are legally entitled to it. So there's normally a marriage ceremony when it comes to a wedding, right? To a marriage. And that's really meant to be a public demonstration of that agreement. So not only does God witness you, but people witness you. And the people around you all know, this is my wife, this is your husband, you're off limits, and people are doing that as an outward show of that agreement and that covenant. But it's not the ceremony that is of the utmost importance, because the covenant is a commitment before God and men. The utmost importance is making the agreement and making that agreement actually enforceable, which holds people accountable to that point. So having a big $20,000, $100,000 wedding is not what's important. Having the bling bling of a ring, the $20,000 dress, the cake, all of that, those things are nice and they're additions and they come as a nice demonstration. However, when it comes to marriage, the key is coming unto your spouse, cleaving unto that spouse, and becoming one flesh. So, but the contract, let's go back to the contract. Let's talk about it. It's important in the marriage ceremony. It's so important that it's not really official until everybody has signed it. The groom has to sign it. The bride has to sign it. The witnesses have to sign it. And when the groom presents it to the bride, this is that demonstration that I'm committed. I'm serious about this agreement. I'm serious about this contract. I'm serious about the deal that we're making. See, a lot of people look at marriage as just, oh, love. But you're making a deal which in some sense means it's a financial situation in which people benefit. You know, it's a you're going under obligation to one another. You're committing to certain things that you have to uphold, and it ain't just a kiss and a hug. So it says, so I was saying, when it comes to a marriage, these are things that we got to think about when we want the success of a marriage to happen. Now, I know y'all might be tired of talking about marriage, but I'm meditating on this because as a married man, I want a successful relationship. I want to be successful, not just in business. I don't want to just make money, but I want to have a family of equal success or better success, to be honest. See, growing up as a kid, we thought, or I thought, I speak for myself, you got to speak for yourself. Success was all about how much money you make. Are you wearing a suit to work? What kind of car do you have? How big is your house? That was success. But there's spiritual success. There's relationship success. There's health success. There's so many different areas to be successful in, and you want to be successful in all of them. And I'm going to be here to tell you, marriage should be high on that plateau because the success of your marriage could also dictate the success of your finances, could also dictate the success of your health. It could also dictate all of these other areas of success because if you make the wrong choice in who you choose to pick as a spouse, all those other things could also fall down and be of the utmost detriment instead of success. So, for a Christian, for an Israelite, when I say Christian, I mean follower of Christ. Now, I don't mean religion. But the marriage goes beyond the earthly covenant. There's a spiritual covenant, a spiritual agreement too, that gives you a divine relationship between Christ and his bride, which is the church. There's a synonymous value to it in your household. And as we go on through with the lesson, the meditation for today, we're going to go into that a little bit more. But think about this. This is a covenant. This is agreement. This is a deal, a pact, and a contract. What are you agreeing to? See, some people, they just get married just to have sex. And they haven't thought about all the other aspects that come along with it. You ever heard of a shotgun wedding where because somebody was having sex, a gun is held up to their head and say, y'all better get married or I'm going to put a bullet into you, right? Well, let's not be so drastic today in regards to guns. But we got to be drastic in the sense of God takes marriage seriously, and he even puts things in his word to say, if you lie with the woman, surely you shall endow her to be your wife, right? That's kind of like the shotgun wedding aspect. You have sex, but you better get married because you're not supposed to just have sex with anyone. But the question is, what are you agreeing to again? Is it more than just sex? Well, let's take a moment, because some of y'all have had worldly weddings. What I mean by worldly is you married in the Christian faith, in the Muslim faith, as a non-believer. But now you are a believer. And in doing so, you had customs that you kept, something old, something new, something blue, right? You had the rice, or you had the broom, you had the white gown, you had the, whatever the different things that you had. But another thing that everybody probably had was wedding vows. Now, a basic wedding vow, goes like this. I take thee to be my wedded wife or husband, to hold on to and cherish from this day forward, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish till death do us part. Right? That's how it generally goes. Now, there's different variations of that, and a lot of people use those basic tenets in their vows, but many of us write our own vows and put our own spin on things. And a vow is another, it's committing to that oath or that agreement, to that contract. That's where you promise something. But how many of us have broken those promises? How many of us have really taken those marriage vows seriously? I think that's important to really ask yourself, because it's a brother here or a sister here that may be committed at one point in time but have completely lost their commitment. And when we talk about that Jada and that Will Love, you got to look and see where they did not keep up with their commitment, perhaps. Rumor has it that they were in an open relationship and that they were able to do what they do. But seeing from my point of view, I haven't seen them fully admit to that. I'm believing that there was some expectation that someone was faithful to that marriage. I'm believing that there was some promise that I will never hurt you like this. But I could be wrong. But we got to talk about the Jada and the Will Love, because people do look at these two as role models, or have in the past. And they, and as a people, we tend to see, here we go, pop culture, right? We tend to see a lot of people talking about goals, right? Relationship goals. So you look at somebody else's relationship and say, I want to be like them. I want a relationship like that. Not realizing that they got problems too. And, the great thing about J. Cole's song is, to some extent, he's not idolizing, at least in my opinion, this is how I interpret the song. He's not idolizing people for their, the things that they have. He's not really saying that they're role models, but he's exposing the fact that we look at these people like role models, but not realizing that they got problems too. That's what I see in the song. I'm curious to see what you see in a song like that. No role models, J. Cole. Explicit content, so, don't be mad at me if you hear some things you didn't want to hear. However, let's go back to the Bible, because we got to consider the vows that God has placed in the book that we're supposed to take when it comes to marriage. We're supposed to take our vows seriously. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 7 and 10. Now, real quick, while y'all are relaxed and, chilling, shout out to Safiri, to Miko, Miriam, and Ezra. Go ahead and hit the share button, get a couple people on, because some of you got friends on here who got some bad relationship goals, who actually you probably don't want to be their friends half the time because of how bad their relationships are. Or you got friends who have drowned out your relationship, who messed up, who through envy of what you have, they may have soured what you have in their own experience of, well, if I can't be happy, neither can you. So I just hit the share button on a few more friends. Hopefully you did too. But we go into 1 Corinthians 7 and 10. And unto the married I command, yet not I, but the Lord, let not the wife depart from her husband. See, one of the things that God is telling us to do as a commandment, not a suggestion, not, nothing to be taken lightly, but a commandment saying the wife shall not depart from her husband. And see, a lot of people think they can leave for any cause, for any reason, and they can just do what they want to do. Well, I feel this way, and I do what I want to do. And what you fail to realize is through marriage and that union, as you become one, ain't no more I do what I want to do. There's no more I leave if I want to leave. It is now, okay, I'm stuck. I'm here. I can't say, well, I tried it, didn't work out, moving on. Verse 11 says, but if she depart, let her remain unmarried, or be reconciled to her husband, and let not the husband put away his wife. So if she needs space, that space is not to go and do your thing. It's to give you an opportunity to reconcile. You're supposed to remain unmarried, mean not get into any other union with any other man. And the things that are allowed within marriage that are not allowed without are not excusable. So sex is saved for marriage. But because you decide, you know what, I just can't do it anymore, I need a break, that doesn't mean you go and give that maritable benefit, that marriage benefit of sex, to a person who you are not married to. You're supposed to sit there by yourself and remain unmarried, or your alternative to that is go back to your husband and continue to be in that union. Continue to be one flesh. Fix your problems. Work them out. See, a lot of people quit way too soon. A lot of people don't work out something. If brothers put the same amount of energy into keeping a woman as they did to getting a woman, how many marriages would be saved? If sisters put the same amount of energy into getting a man as to keeping a man, how many relationships would be saved? See, what happens many a times, somebody can testify, I'm sure, is when you were trying to get with that person, you did everything right. Even if that wasn't your real personality. Oh, you would cook, you would clean. Oh, you were thoughtful, you were considerate, you were kind, you had smooth words, but it was all an act so you could get what you wanted. But once you got what you wanted, you stopped acting. And now the real you shows up. You're not that clean. You don't really cook like that. You're really kind of mean. You really don't have a sweet bone in your body. You kind of, not the person I thought you were. That's what happens a lot of times. But that's where, even though you may be hurt and upset by whatever trick has occurred, you got to reconcile or remain unmarried. So you have Will and Jada, and we'll go into it a little bit, who have been married for a long time. And I'm sure that somebody felt like somebody wasn't holding up the end of the deal. Somebody wasn't, satisfying anymore. Somebody wasn't doing something that left another person ready to depart. But while they were gone, while they were taking space from each other, remain unmarried. And it says, and let not the husband put away his wife. A man should not put his wife away. And I'm not going to go to it, but we know that the Pharisees tempted Christ asking about divorce. And Christ let them know that, hey, because of the hardness of your hearts, you men put away your wives. But it wasn't supposed to be that way. See, in 1 Corinthians here is letting you know that a husband is not supposed to put his wife away. Supposed to remain married. You're supposed to continue to uphold your obligation as a husband and fulfill your duty. And in return, that wife is supposed to still do her stuff too. And if y'all have trouble with that, reconcile. Fix it. Get the situation resolved. But like I said, some people give up way too easy. Now, so this lesson, this meditation is for the person who is already married to not give up too easy, but it's also for the person who is not married yet. Because you have to consider, hey, if you get married, this is what it is. This is the contract. This is the agreement that is going to go forth. And I got to consider that. Oh, I got to consider that? Yes, Eric, you got to consider that. Yes, Odessa, it's a big responsibility, a big step. But many of us, all we're thinking about is the pleasure. All we're thinking about is verse 9. It says, but if they cannot contain, let them marry. You can't contain yourself from having sex. Oh my gosh, I am burning in lust, and I must fulfill that lust. That's how people feel, right? But dang, do you realize what great expense that sex has now? See, a lot of people come to the realization that after they've fulfilled that lust, that it wasn't worth it. A lot of people feel that way. Now, it's too late now. You should have thought about that because you were warned. And many of us, despite all the warnings that have been given by the Bible, our parents, etc., we still fall into the trap and get into that situation that we then are unhappy that we're in. So, verse 11 says, but and if she depart, let her remain unmarried or be reconciled to her husband. Let not the husband put away his wife. It says, but to the rest speak I. So now, Paul is giving a little more understanding on what the Lord is saying and expounding upon it, saying that, okay, God didn't say this specifically, but I'm adding clarity to it that may be beneficial to you. If any brother have a wife that believeth not and should be pleased to dwell with him, let him not put her away. So he's jumping off of what God said the husband shouldn't put away his wife. And he's saying even if she's an unbeliever, you should be careful not to put her away, because if she's pleased to dwell, you have an opportunity to fix that. And you already came together and joined together. Eric, good point on that why did I get married theory. That was one of the lesson topics in previous time. It says, and the woman which have a husband that believeth not, if he be pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him. Sisters, even if you got a husband that ain't as devout as you would like him to be, don't leave him. You already are joined in. You already have a situation going on. You already made a commitment and a promise. And even though you didn't fully have the understanding that you have now, or he doesn't fully have the understanding that you have now, it's still in your best interest to try to work that out. See, a lot of people are so quick. Oh, you don't believe what I believe? Bye. 2 weeks. You know, some people give it a little bit longer, a couple years. But at the same rate, you got to understand that it's hard for it to get any better. You had something that got you together with that woman in the first place. So you better build off of that. See, marriage is relationship building. You build off of the things that you have that work for you, and you continue to grow them. Okay, so let's skip down to verse 27. We might hit a couple more places in this chapter, but we got to skip down to 27 real quick. All right. Art thou bound unto a wife? Seek not to be loosed. Art thou loosed from a wife? Seek not a wife. He's letting you know, hey, either way it go, you got a situation on your hands. If you're bound, and that's a key word there, bound. See, when you get married, you're bound to that wife, and you're not supposed to break that bond. A lot of people so easily break it. They got, they just tied together with some spaghetti noodles that have no real support to them. But a real marriage is supposed to be, dare I use the example, shackles, to where you should not be able to break free from that. You should feel the pressure of being stuck with that person. And now, even though these words sound negative, as we understand the purpose of marriage, it becomes positive. Because when you're stuck with somebody, you're forced to grow. You're forced to learn how to work things out, which makes you a better person and able to handle things in different ways later than if you were a quitter all your life. And every time something got hard, you ran. So it says, seek not a wife. Meaning, understand that marriage is good and all, but you're going to go through the trouble in the flesh that is spoken about as well. And for some, it may be better to avoid that. That's why the disciples said, it's better that we don't marry if we can't put our wife away for every cause. We got to consider these things, and a lot of people haven't done that. And so what I want for you is to learn from a situation like Will and Jada, who got married at a young age, who got into their relationship at a time where maybe had they waited a little longer and grew a little more, they would have decided not to get married, or they would have been more prepared for what was to come within that marriage. Verse 28, but if thou marry, thou hast not sinned. There's nothing wrong with getting married. And if a virgin marry, she have not sinned. Nevertheless, such shall have trouble in the flesh, but I spare you. There's nothing wrong with getting married, but I'm trying to spare you from jumping into a marriage too quickly, because you will be troubled by that marriage. Now, somebody can testify. I know everybody on here who is married can, or has been married, can say, yeah, you're right. The Bible is definitely a true book right there. Trouble definitely occurred in my flesh because of marriage. But to those of you who are still married, I'm sure that you can also see some benefit and value that counteracts that trouble. Hopefully you can, prayerfully, because for somebody they may not be getting that value. But you got to ask yourself, why did you get married? You got to ask yourself, what are you agreeing to? So, where are we? Let's go down to verse 39. Go ahead and share a little bit. Share a little bit. And then we'll get to verse 39. Lost my little page here. All right. The wife is bound by law as long as her husband liveth. See, this is the great situation that is being dealt with. The wife is bound. Remember, I used the word shackles a moment ago. I know someone takes it negative, but you gotta deal with it. You gotta understand it, that the wife is bound by law as long as her husband liveth. Now, I know Moses gave you opportunity for divorce. The court system gave you opportunity for divorce, but God said, hey, don't leave. Stay there, stick it out, endure. But if her husband be dead, she is at liberty to be married to whom she will, only in the Lord. But if your husband die, then, sister, you can remarry. But if you do remarry, it got to be a spiritual union between two believers of the faith, two Israelite believers. Don't just go and marry anybody now. Now, I hope y'all are thinking about what's going on here. God is letting you know that once you become one flesh, Ain't no more removing the rib. Like, how many brothers have went and got a rib removed? Like, nobody wants body parts removed. That's not something we do. But you got to look at the fact that as God gave you a spiritual understanding, you had to pull a rib out. He had to pull a rib out to create your wife and put it back in. God's a masterful surgeon. But I don't think we really want that life where we missing ribs now, because that protects us and vital organs. And without that protection, where would we be? What dangers would we be susceptible to? Romans 7:2. For the woman which hath a husband is bound by law to her husband as long as he liveth. But if the husband be dead, she is loosed from the law of her husband. So then, if while her husband liveth, she be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress. But if her husband be dead, she is free from that law, so that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man. See, what we fail to realize is God said, thou shalt not commit adultery. And our desire to get out of our relationship and go find a new one makes us adulterers. And so, as a brother or a sister in this walk, in this understanding, that is unwilling to put up with their wife and fix the situation, unwilling to put up with their husband and fix the situation, they're choosing to be an adulterer rather than to stick it out and fight it out. That means you're choosing to not inherit the kingdom, because adulterers cannot inherit the kingdom of God. Know ye not? Let me go there. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9. It says, know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of God? Be not deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind. Notice adulterers is right in the middle of there. And as we're reading in Romans chapter 7, verse 2, the woman who gets another man while her real husband is still alive is an adulterer. I gotta say it again, the woman who marries a man, another man, makes her husband, while she still has a living husband, is an adulterer. And then furthermore, Hebrews 13:4 says that marriage is honorable and the bed undefiled, but whoremongers and adulterers God will judge. So you got to understand that in being an adulterer, you're not getting the kingdom, but you will get judgment. You will get judgment. And the thing is, who's volunteering and signing up for that judgment? Who's volunteering to be the adulterer? Oh, nobody, right? Yeah, well, you are when you decide to go lay with somebody else. Let me look up this other verse real quick. Let's go to Luke 16:18. It says, whosoever putteth away his wife and marrieth another committeth adultery. And whosoever marrieth her that is put away from her husband committeth adultery. So, in that marriage that you are still bound to, you become an adulterer, and so does the person that you're dealing with become an adulterer. Now you got two people who shall not inherit the kingdom. Now you got two people who will receive the judgment, when it didn't have to be that way. It did not have to be that way. See, Many of us have decisions to make, and we always make the more sinful decision. For some reason, our pleasure gets such in a way that we rather take the risk of getting judged than take the risk of having a little discomfort to inherit the kingdom. I don't know about you, but if I know that I am a shoo-in to get the kingdom, I don't want to give it away. I always said, if I, I look at a lot of people who make millions of dollars, like in the entertainment, athletes or whatever. If you gave me millions of dollars, I wouldn't mess it up with drugs and things like that. That's the mentality that I say I have. Give me the money, I'll do right with it. But that's how we should look at the kingdom. If you're going to give me the kingdom, Lord, I won't mess it up. Nothing should be so valuable to you that you give up the kingdom, which is the most valuable thing you can receive. We got to meditate on that. Now, let's go to Tobit 8 and 7. See, we're supposed to grow age together, like Tobit said here. And now, O Lord, I take not this sister for lust, but uprightly. Therefore, mercifully ordain that we may become aged together. See, the reason why a lot of marriages don't last is because we take our woman, or our spouse, I should say, for the wrong reasons. We take them for lust, not for righteous reasons. And then we're trying to hold on for righteous reasons, but we never had righteous intentions in the first place. All we wanted to do was fulfill that lust, to feel good. I just want to feel good, right? But the secret to success in being aged together and living a long married life is to do it for the right reasons. So how many of you who are married did it for the right reasons? How many of you decided to get married because you wanted the things that God wanted for you in your life? How many of you actually got married because, it felt good and I just had to get some, Two people may have had two different thought processes and ended up with two different outcomes. I want to go ahead and go and check out the clip and then pull some things out of the clip. I want us to see what Jada and Will talked about on this thing called the Red Table Talk. I want us to see the fullness of the scandal as they discussed it, because it's important for us to not speculate, for me to not assume, for me to not misrepresent the situation. And that's important for you to do the same so that when we examine the Bible, we can compare it against it. So here we are. There's the face of, I got to talk about it. So I'm going to take a few moments to let it play, let you hear it. I may interject, I may pause a little bit and speak on a couple of things, but I want us to go over this situation, not because we need to be nosy and all up in people's business, but since it's out there and since everybody's talking about it, we better learn from it. Let's not make fun of the situation. Let's not joke about the situation. Let's say, wow, that could have been me. I'm glad that I haven't fallen into this situation, and I would love to make sure that I don't. So here we go.
Red table for me, just all the stuff that's going on in the press. Mm-hmm. I felt like it was important to come to the table to really clear the air. Somebody made a statement for me that wasn't a statement I made, that went cray-cray.
And wanted to
I can't even get 23 seconds into it. I got to say this. Like, she's addressing this publicly because it's in the press. It's in the media. And the world is talking about their relationship. But the thing about a relationship is, as we read in Hebrews, that the bedroom is undefiled. and marriage is honorable, but God is going to judge those who are whoremongers and adulterers. And so now you got to face millions of people and put your business out there, which is probably embarrassing, which is probably, something that is not easy to do. But now you got to go through that. And see, a lot of us, if we want to avoid the hard moments, then we got to avoid the sin.
Reasons why I wanted to come to the table is the media, the headlines. We specifically never said anything.
Yeah.
We were purposely not saying anything. Any headline that says Jada said or Will said or the Smith said is not true. We specific.
So now you got a situation to where your scenario has blown so out of proportion that you have to speak on it, even though you try to keep quiet. Because if you don't speak on it, everybody else will, and they may misrepresent you. Now, I need you sisters to tell me something here. And we're just being honest for a moment. I need some interaction. Generally speaking, do sisters, including yourself, anybody can answer, because everybody may know. Brothers, you can answer. It don't make you out of the spirit. But they generally portray Will Smith as an attractive man. A good-looking man. But when you look at him right now, he don't look well. He looks distraught. His face is puffy and eyes are red, and he's groomed as he normally would be. And not to say that he should shave his beard off, but to say he's much more clean kept, generally speaking, nice line up and haircut. Face is clear. But right now he looks stressed. And that's part of the judgment of adultery, is the stress that it leaves. Thank you, Elijah. He looks bugged. Thank you, Ivory. He looks stressed. And so I want you to see that, because I need you to see it within yourself. How you can end up looking when your situation is not going right, when you're not honoring your marriage, the stress that it can put on the other person. And if you love your neighbor as you love yourself, if you love your spouse as you love yourself, then would you want your spouse to look like this? Will don't look good. Will don't look good right now.
Never said anything.
Right.
So coming to the table was like, we just felt like it got to the point where you got to say something.
Yeah, and to stop that cycle.
Yeah.
There's people's feelings involved.
Right.
There's people's feelings involved, but nobody's feelings were considered in the act. Shiloh say holding back the hurt. Yeah, he holding it back. Yeah, he embarrassed Eleazar. People's feelings were involved, but so now you got to address the world because the feelings are involved. Whose feelings are more important right now? Well, was Will's feelings important in the moment? Was Jada's feelings important? Was August Alcina feelings important? Like, whose feelings are we talking about? Let's play on.
And at the end of the day, I don't like how all of this came to be. That doesn't matter. It's all love.
Now you don't like how it came to be.
Honestly. And I would usually not, that would be something I wouldn't comment on at all.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a situation that I consider private.
You just feel like it ain't really nobody's business. Yeah. But now Black Twitter has claimed it as their business.
But, I feel like it's healing that needs to happen. And I know there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now.
Yeah.
Even though this is minuscule, I do feel like it's these kinds of things that create the world that we're in. And the idea of not communicating, not talking about it, not clearing the air, and just being as transparent. Just being transparent.
And I'm here with you.
Yeah, I thank you for that, because
I gotta say this part. scripturally speaking, because we got to throw the scriptures in there. Can't let them do too much talking. Ecclesiastes 12 and 14 says, "For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil." See, there's no secrets. Things will come out to light. See, most people only fear the eyes of men, is what the scriptures say. But God's eyes are 10,000 times more brighter than the sun. He see all of this stuff. And then what happens is, while you're trying to keep your sin secret, it gets exposed. There's no secret sin, though.
Been on a hell of a journey with me. So that's what we're going to start with. This is a very personal journey.
Yeah.
That became very public.
Yes, absolutely.
For whatever reason.
So what happened, Jada?
Okay, so let's start with, I guess about 4.5 years ago.
Yeah.
I think it was about 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Started a friendship with August.
Mm-hmm.
And
now I'm going to try my best to not insert my opinion as best I can, but I'm sure opinion will come out. But I want to deal with the facts of what is going on in this situation. The fact that is being brought out in front of us from her admission is she's starting a friendship with August. Now, it's important to bring this fact up because August, well, let's look it up. He's in his 20s. He is 27. She is 48. Her son is 22. And a daughter is 19. And as far as I'm aware, Jaden, her son, and August were friends. So she's beginning a friendship with one of her son's friends, perhaps, is what I believe it to be. I'm saying it, this is what I've heard, this is what I believe it to be, because I really ain't digging into all the details of other people's life, but Black Twitter may do that. I wasn't really trying to do that.
We actually became really, really good friends. Mm-hmm. And it all started with him just needing some help. Mm-hmm. Me wanting to help his health, his mental state.
Because for me, that was the thing when Og first came around, he was really sick.
He was really sick, yeah.
And
I hate to be rude, but since we already know where this ends up, right? So you got a sick young man and you want to help him heal. What kind of healing are you doing? Sexual healing? Like, okay. Is that what the prescription is?
The outpouring for him from our family was initially about his health.
Yeah. And I mean, we found all those different resources, mm-hmm. To help pull him through. Mm-hmm. And from there, you and I were going through a very difficult time.
Yeah.
And we decided...
I was done with your ass.
Yeah, you kicked me to the curb.
I was done with you.
Yeah.
Marriages have that, though.
Yeah,
Marriages have that.
Yeah, we basically, we broke up.
We decided that we were going to separate for a period of time, and you go figure out how to make yourself happy, and I'll figure out how to make myself happy.
Well,
all right, so they decided to break up. We read about that. And if the married depart, right? The husband shouldn't put the wife away, the wife shouldn't depart. But if you depart, you're to remain unmarried and be able to reconcile with your spouse. Now, a lot of people would say, oh, well, she didn't go marry somebody else. But we got to remember, marriage is about also about the acts of sex. And only married people should engage in that act. Controversial to some, But for you righteous and holy people, you repenting Israelites, you understand that sex is reserved for marriage. Now, for you wicked people, you fornicators out there, you know, you got a different belief, but you still got to get judged, as it says in Hebrews 13:4. Marriage is honorable and the bed undefiled, but whoremongers and adulterers God will judge. For those who are having sex outside of the marriage, God judges. So, I guess you have an excuse now, Jada, because y'all were done with each other. Y'all were separating, right? Well, if that was the case, we wouldn't have this show in front of us right now. Red Table Talk. We wouldn't have this show. Obviously, even though they were separated, it's still looked at as some issue during their separation that leads Will to looking so stressed, looking so hurt, to where it's a controversial situation, whereas Black Twitter has brought this up in the media.
At that particular point in time, it was indefinite.
Yeah, I really felt like we could be over. We
were over.
And then what did you do, Jada?
Well, I think from there, as time went on, I got into a different kind of entanglement.
Mm-hmm.
An entanglement. She got into a different type of entanglement. I'm gonna let it play for him. No. I gotta hit it real quick. I gotta get the definition of entanglement. I gotta be careful with the words I say, because, given a situation like this, you may be acting a little childish. Give me a second while I get that definition up here. So here we go. The definition of entanglement. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, get y'all some. An action or a fact of entangling or being entangled, okay. A complicated or compromising relationship or situation. So she trying to use big words that most of us don't understand, and that's why we throw it out so jokingly. Up an entanglement. I don't care if it's a rectangle, a triangle, or an entangle. Well, my relationship status is entangled. Everybody is making a joke out of this, but we got to look at the words. What is she saying? She's saying that she didn't get into an ordinary relationship. She didn't get into an approved relationship. It wasn't something to be proud of. It wasn't something that she didn't know was wrong. She knew it was wrong. She knew it was complicated. She knew it was compromising. It was a situation, a relationship that was complicated, is what we see here. Not only that, we got synonyms. It says involvement, complication, mix-up, adventure, undertaking, affair, relationship, love affair, romance, fling, flirtation, dalliance, liaison, attachment, intrigue, relations, affair, hanky-panky. Now, that's what entanglement means. But when we look up the definition of adultery, we have to get into that as well. We see a voluntary sexual intercourse between a married person. Jada is married, and she's bound to her husband as long as he liveth. So she is not out she's not in the clear to go and do what she wants to do with anyone. And even if she was, even if Will were dead, she could only marry in the Lord, not have fornication relationships. It says between married persons and a person who is not his or her spouse. She was having sex with someone who was not her spouse. Now, as we look at the definitions, the synonyms of adultery, you have highlighted unfaithfulness, infidelity, disloyal, extramarital sex, extramarital relations, affair, liaison, intrigue, entanglement. She knows by using the word entanglement that she's committing adultery. See, when we grow up in this world, we learn these words and we become more educated over time. And though entanglement is not a word that most of us have ever used in regards to adultery, when you use words like that, it's because you didn't study them. Entanglement is not a ordinary word for your average person, your average Negro. Entanglement is closer to a SAT word, if you will. You got to know the words that you're using, and she's basically saying, I got into an adulterous relationship. So let's go on.
With August. One thing I want to get clear about and clean up, one of the things that was kind of swirling in the press about you giving permission, which is, the only person that can give permission in that particular circumstance is myself.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But what August was probably trying to communicate, because I could actually...
I got to speak on it. So the rumor is that he gave permission, that they had an open relationship. But she is claiming here that the only person who gives permission is me. Now, 50 Cent, y'all know how 50 Cent get down. He said something that was a little lewd, but then she said only I can give permission for another man to sleep with me, basically. And now a husband should not actually be given permission for another man to lay with his wife. However, given that in marriage you become someone's possession, he do got that rule and reign over you. And a lot of women in our society don't look at it that way. They look at it like, I'm still an individual me that can do what I do. Because a lot of women don't look at it as becoming one flesh. They don't look at it as they're now the rib that is being reattached to the body of Adam. They look at it as like, I'm Adam and you Adam too. We both 50-50 and equal in our stance. We both got the same power. But no, that's not something that's biblical. But that's going to get me off on a tangent. She says she in an entanglement, which means adulterous relationship. And that has to be considered. And then she says, I have to be the one to give permission. But God is the one that gives permission. And the permission that is given is you can only do that if your husband is dead and you go and get you a new husband in the Lord.
See how he would perceive it as permission because we were separated.
And I don't know what August was thinking. But he did make the comment in other interviews that Will gave permission. Now, I said I wanted to only deal with the facts, but I got to give an opinion here. In my opinion, she probably left it up to an interpretation like that. She probably stated something that left him to feel, well, Will gave me permission. I don't know. And I'm not speaking boldly or confidently. I'm simply saying it could have simply went like this. Will and I are taking a break from each other. We're done. So with him saying that we're done, that gives me the freedom to do what I want to do. Maybe she said something similar to that, which would then lead August to say, oh, so Will gave you your freedom papers? However, we got to understand scripturally. Like, if we're being real, and a lot of our people are getting caught up in this and taking her side, right? But there's no side to take. The side to take is the Lord's side and not a man or a woman's side who will then give permission for adultery, who will then do away with their spouse.
Amicably.
Yeah.
And I think he also wanted to make it clear that he's not a homewrecker. Which he's not.
I think so. I mean, because this.
I'm sorry, August, but you are a homewrecker because you have now entangled yourself in a situation that makes you and Jada an adulterer. You and Jada are both adulterers now because you engaged in a sexual activity with another man's wife. And now that home is in jeopardy. As somebody asked the question, well, what about the kids' feelings? Now you've endangered the family, and to the point where they may not be able to survive this. And the reason why, from a worldly point of view, may be one, but from a spiritual point of view is the husband is not supposed to be able to get back with the wife after a situation like that. The scripture says in Jeremiah 3:1, if a man put away his wife and she go from him and become another man's, shall he return unto her again? Shall not that land be greatly polluted? The sister is greatly polluted by what the home wrecking activity that she's trying to defend. Now, don't get me wrong, she the home wrecker too. I mean, it take two to tango. It says, but thou hast played the harlot with many lovers, and yet return again to me, saith the Lord. You're not supposed to be able to play the harlot and then return. You're supposed to be polluted. And now that's why in Matthew 19, the one thing that is supposed to end a relationship is adultery. It says, and I say unto you, Matthew 19:9, whosoever shall put away his wife except it be fornication. That's the only caveat. The only reason you can get rid of your wife is if it be fornication, which adultery is a fornication, or fornication is a part of adultery, however you look at it, and shall marry another, committeth adultery. See, if you commit fornication, you commit adultery. And whoso marrieth her which is put away, doth commit adultery. Hope y'all receiving that. Because this is the things that we got to consider. If we want a successful relationship, what did you agree to? Did you agree to protect that person from their sins so that they don't get... Did you agree to help them into the kingdom? Did you agree to keep that relationship sanctified for better or for worse till death do us part, in sickness and in health?
This is your red table, and you brought yourself to the red table. I think you need to say clearly what happened.
As far as what?
You and I decided we were going to take our space, and what happened?
Yeah, and then I got in.
See, take our space. That's that opportunity to reconcile. Take our space. No one died. You just departed from another until you could reconcile.
Into an entanglement with August. That's what I said.
Say the word, Jada. Say you committed adultery. Because the thing is, entanglement ain't in the Bible. And if you're not careful, you'll miss how bad an entanglement is. We got to read the definition of adultery. Okay, we got to read the definition of adultery. And we got to read it again, as we already had it once. It says a voluntary sexual intercourse between a married person and a person who is not your spouse. Then the example is she was committing adultery with a much younger man. That's exactly what Jada was doing. Committing adultery with a much younger man. And now as we get deeper into the definition of adultery, and we go into another dictionary, it says, let's get a little zoom action for y'all. A violation of the marriage bed. Remember, Hebrews 13, the bed is undefiled. You violated the marriage bed. It says a crime. Adultery is a crime or a civil injury. That's why when you go to divorce court, somebody ends up getting money out of the situation, especially when you got facts against you on what you did wrong to break the relationship, because you committed a civil injury, which introduces or may introduce into a family spurious offspring. They could have... August could have had a baby with this woman. In the laws of Connecticut, sexual intercourse of any man with a married woman is the crime of adultery in both Such intercourse of a married man with an unmarried woman is fornication in both. And adultery of man within the meaning of the law respecting divorce, but not a felonious adultery in either. Or the crime of adultery of common law or by statute. Okay, so that's what they see it as in Connecticut. But in a scriptural sense, all manner of lewdness or unchastity, as in the seventh commandment. All manner of lewdness and unchastity is considered adultery. Any type of sexual sin ends up becoming adultery. Okay. There we have it. Play on.
An entanglement.
Yes. Yes.
A relationship.
See, an entanglement is something to be laughed at because you know what you're trying to do when you use certain words. Will is like, nah, make it plain. You got into a relationship, which you should have been a little bit more plain and said adulterous relationship.
Yeah. Yes, it was a relationship. Absolutely.
But why you didn't say that in the first place, Jada?
I was in a lot of pain and I was very broken. Now, in the process of that relationship, I definitely realized that you can't find happiness outside of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she said she was in a lot of pain and was broken. And I don't want this to seem like I'm on the bash Jada train. I'm not speaking on these things as if I'm really against Jada per se. I'm speaking against it because I'm against the sin that she committed. And since she committed it, she got to get the words that come with it. And because it's a public outcry right now on this is the only reason I'm speaking on it. Generally, you know I don't go into the pop culture of things very often. But because I have to hear about it so much, I have to hear about it so often in the community, it's got to be spoken about. And so she's hurt. She's broken. What she's saying is, these are my excuses for why I broke God's laws. These are my excuses for why I did what I knew was wrong. And so now you got to give me a pass because I'm broke, because I'm hurting. Now, when we read Paul's writings, when we read Jesus' writings, it didn't give a clause for, but if you're broke or hurt, then you can commit adultery. It said, understand there's trouble in the flesh. It said there's no reason to get divorced except it be for fornication, which here we are. So prior to that, there's nothing that can be done by either spouse that should make you go and sleep with another man.
And luckily enough, you and I were also going through a process of healing in a much different manner. I would definitely say we did everything that we could to get away from each other, only to realize that wasn't possible.
So we come into the red cable. So I'm in the Jada.
So it wasn't possible to get away from each other because what God put together, let no man put asunder. Now, I can't speak for God and say that God joined these two together, but they've been married for 25 years. And something got them to the point of being able to break that marriage. And if you would like to think that the Lord blessed that union, then it shouldn't have been broken.
In a position right now, so you during that time launched into an interaction with August. What do you feel like?
See, now Will trying to skate around the words. Now you launched into an interaction with August. Now you committed adultery with August is what should be said.
You were looking for?
I just wanted to feel good.
I gotta keep interrupting, man. I'm sorry, but it's important to keep saying the word adultery because we can't desensitize this. We need to understand the wrongs as a people, confess and forsake them. And when we don't say the right words, we're not fully owning up to our transgression, and God's forgiveness can't really come out, which is the thing that we need to get the kingdom. We know that we're all sinners, but there's a requirement to confess and forsake. 1 Kings 8, read that in repentance.
It had been so long since I felt good. And it was really a joy to just help heal somebody.
So what I need brothers and sisters to understand is feeling good cannot be your only motivation. That's where the scripture was talking about, you know, if they can't contain their burning for one another, let them marry. But it never says if you can't contain, then go ahead and commit adultery. And so not being able to feel good for so long, as she said, well, that was no excuse to commit adultery. Now you made August an adulterer, which he may have been in his own way an adulterer somewhere else. Now you're an adulterer. Now your husband is joined unto an adulterer, which if you're one flesh, now you're sharing those sins. Oh, I just wanted to help. Your desire to help someone outside of your marriage should never be stronger than your desire to help your spouse in the marriage, because that's who you have made an agreement with. That's who you have a commitment with. That's who you should be, you know, committed to, and the oath and the agreement that you made.
Yeah.
I think that has a lot to do with my codependency, which is another thing that I had to learn to break in this cycle of just that idea of needing to fix and being drawn to people that need help, whether it's your health or whether it's your addictions. There's something about that childhood trauma that feels as though it can be fixed through fixing people.
Now, for me, personally, so now I'm going to get personal for a second. I don't like the labels that we place on ourselves sometimes, because then we feel obligated to fulfill them. So she's speaking about her childhood and her codependence. And she allowed her codependence to fix somebody else to break her relationship in a way that it shouldn't have been broken. You have a codependency where you feel that you need to help others to feel fulfilled. Cool. But at what expense? And you got to realize how bad this is. There's advantage being taken of people in a situation like this that we would look at as so wrong in so many other situations. You have a young man who is sick. The family cares about you because you're sick and they want to help you. And you go and have sex with them. You're broken and your marriage is in shambles. So August, you go and have sex with a woman to make it worse. I can guarantee you, even though they may try to save face, their relationship is bad right now. This is not a good moment. No one is actually healed by this now. No one is in a better position by this now. Look at Will's face. He looks terrible. And now he's embarrassed. Now the family is embarrassed. And like someone is saying in the comments, Jaden is the one who introduced Jada to August. Like Elijah saying, oh, adultery is minuscule now. That's what you do. You minimize how serious adultery is when you call it an entanglement. Now I got to go hunt through synonyms to figure out what we really mean here. But it's not minuscule, because the scripture says that in adultery, that's the one thing out of all the things you can do, that's the one thing that will allow a man to divorce his wife. That's the thing where now a woman is being called polluted, a harlot. That's the thing. And you got to realize when you look at Galatians 5:19, let's go there. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like. All of these are now in the same bucket of such like, of which I tell you before, as I have told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. Adultery is not minuscule. Entanglement is not minuscule because it gets you disqualified from the kingdom of heaven. I told you, you got to qualify to get into the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Versus fixing me.
Yeah.
And I think that that whole process with all really that feels as though it can be fixed through fixing people.
Mm-hmm.
Versus
instead of fixing yourself, you think that fixing somebody else fixes you. No, fixing you is what fixes you. Fixing somebody else is what fixes them. But now in her mind, if I fix somebody else, it'll fix me. Versus
fixing me.
Yeah.
And I think that that whole process with all really showed me that and taught me that. And I'm really grateful for that lesson.
So she had to get young man, her son's friend, sex to show her that. You're supposed to be the aged woman teaching the younger women how to behave, but now you're the example in front of all of these other women. Now other women are playing with this word entanglement and feeling like Jada did nothing wrong. This is a bad example, Jada. This is a bad example to your daughter Willow. Because it doesn't promote kingdom. We say in an argument of Black Lives Matter, but Black lives don't really matter when you're destroying lives, destroying relationships, destroying families. Adultery is something serious. And now you got a lot of men who don't deal with black women because of something that a black woman has done to them. Just like you got a lot of men who have done something to a black woman that caused her to only want to deal with white men now or something. When you look at what situations like this does, is no benefit but a lot of detriment. Who's to say what the total aftermath of this situation is going to be? Now you're popular for your adultery. You got a lot of women who are popular for the sexual things that they've done. And now it's time to have a respectable lifestyle. I'll give an example. I hate to bring somebody else up into it. She's trying so hard to be a better person, I guess. But you got Kim Kardashian, pop culture, right? Who is known for her sex tape. But now that Kanye was considering or is considering, I don't know what the real status is, running for president, her worry is that just like Trump's wife, who had a former naked pictures and stuff floating around, she's thinking, oh, well, my nudity is going to be shown too. You got to think of these things before you do the act. You didn't think you wanted to be a respectable mother before you got on the sex tape? But like I said, I don't want to bring her into it and drag her into it, even though she's not the topic. I needed to show an example because Jada, now you're going to be popular for your adultery. That's going to be the thing that you're most known for from now on.
I feel like that husband, like I'm with you at the press conference. I'm that husband. Now I got to be with you at the press conference while you like tell the world about your transgressions.
Well,
like I love my baby. I'm gonna stand by my baby no matter what.
Well, you know, I definitely understand why it would look that way or feel that way, but I actually don't look at it as a transgression at all.
I gotta stop right there. So Will, he tried to take a little power move and say, no, you've been calling it entanglement, but this is a transgression. He's letting it be known that it's a sin, but he's scared to look like he tiptoe around and kind of laugh it off and make a joke out of it. And she say, I don't see it as a transgression. She is not acknowledging her sin. And guys, it's so important to acknowledge your sin. When you say it's not a transgression, you're doing like Elijah said and making it minuscule. You're not seeing the seriousness, the gravity, the magnitude of what you're doing. I don't see it as a transgression. Now he got that face that everybody making memes about. That's that, did you do this, and that face. I got to keep it PG, right? But that's that, oh, so you don't feel bad about what you did face? Oh, it's not a transgression? So you think this is acceptable?
Through that particular journey, I learned so much about myself and was able to really confront a lot of emotional immaturity, emotional insecurity, and I was really able to do some really deep healing.
You know, I personally, I have an issue that we as a people can't learn from others' mistakes. You know, the scripture says the things that are written aforetime before our learning. But so often we got to go and do the same thing that's already been written to learn from it. She say that she learned so much from this entanglement. And to me, I find it to be diminishing as well, because you're trying to find the value and the positive in your sin when you have failed to find the wickedness in your sin. Now, don't get me wrong. You probably do learn things out of the sin that you go through. And as a person who has sinned as well, I'm sure I've learned, I will admit that I've learned some things as well about myself that have empowered me to not sin again. But in the moment of it, God is asking us to repent and to confess and to forsake that sin. And if she keeps brushing it off as not that bad, the question is, will she repent? Because let's say that they have not reconciled their marriage. Is she still entangling? Because I think most of us can be honest and say, if any of us have ever committed adultery or have done something outside of our relationships that we said we were committed to, we probably didn't do it once. If we did it once, we did it way more than that. Now, I'm not accusing her, you know, because I said I'm not going to try to get in. I'm trying not to get into opinions. I'm not going to accuse her of having multiple other entanglements. But who's to say that she doesn't have others, and since she doesn't feel so bad about this one, she only feels bad that it's public, is what it seems like. And I know, don't get me wrong, like I said, I'm not bashing Jada like this is the Bash Jada show. People say that Will have his adulteries too, that he's done his suspect things and whatnot. I'm not a witness, nor do I claim to know. But that's not excusing either party. What we're dealing with right now is the realness of what's going on right now is she is having to confront the things that she's done.
You know, and as I came through and started to realize certain things about you and I, he decided to break all communication with me,
Right.
which was totally understandable.
Right.
And I let that be.
August decided to break total communication. Opinion again. Maybe it's because he realized that Jada wasn't being fully truthful, and now he realized he is the homewrecker. Maybe the reason why he feels he has to say, well, Will gave permission, is because now I realize that Will didn't give permission, and now y'all are trying to get yourselves back together when I thought y'all were really done. Maybe. The point is you would never be in this situation if you respected the vows of the marriage, if you respected the honor of marriage. See, we as a people, hopefully, because you are righteous and you actually learn from the things written aforetime, you don't get entangled. You don't defile your bedroom. You don't get judged by this. You don't become the whore or the whoremonger. You don't become polluted. You don't put yourself in a situation where now divorce is an option. Hopefully.
And hadn't talked to him since.
Yeah.
So it is a little weird that all this stuff is coming out now, since this was
Because for me, this was years ago, right? So the fact that it's coming up now, and I think it could feel weird for people that we're laughing and talking about it, but
it happened so long ago.
And
it did happen long ago, but remember, there's no secret in that sin, and it will come to light. But if it's so long ago and you're able to laugh about it, then Will, why do you look so bad? Maybe something else is wrong with you, perhaps. But Will, historically, has always been looked well in the industry.
And our experiences of working through it, fighting through it, talking through it, and therapizing through it, I think that the why now is weird.
Yeah. When I say it's been a huge healing on my life, and just what I had to confront and discover, about myself, the ugly truths and the beauty. So it was something that I felt like wasn't really ready to be discussed because it hadn't been that healing, because he hasn't wanted to, Og and I haven't talked in so long, you know what I mean? So I don't know, this all seemed very strange, but I'm grateful for the journey that you and I have had together. Because I feel like there are a lot of couples that go through those periods, and a lot of couples that have to separate and think it's over. And, the one thing I'll say about you and I is that there's never been secrets.
Right. We came together young, and we were both broken in our own ways, and to be able to make mistakes without the fear of losing your family is so critical.
Yeah.
Now, I like that he brings that up, that we came together young and broken, because that reiterates something I said earlier, that if you don't get married too young, you may be able to fix yourself in certain areas that you don't end up having to deal with these things in your marriage. So this goes to you young women, you young men. You 18 years old, you're burning, and you can't wait to get to the age of marriage. Some of you are failing to realize that you got a little bit longer, and you think that because the law of America says you're an adult at 18, you're good to go. But, the scriptures tell us that the age of a man is 20. But that doesn't mean you should get married the day you turn 20. For you young sisters, you don't know anything. And many of you probably don't have the mother figure to teach you the things that you need to know, because your mother is trying to learn these things as well, or doesn't even care to. So you need time to be taught by the aged sisters. You need a father figure in your life that's going to teach you how to be a wife. And for you brothers, you need the same thing. You need a father figure to teach you how to be a husband. You need a mother figure, like you see in Proverbs 31, who tells you what type of woman to look for. But because you burn in lust, you jump to it so soon. So I want to encourage you sisters to really step back and say, you know what? I could end up in an entanglement one day. And I could be that whore that the Bible speaks of. I could be that sister that is no longer eligible to remarry because I got into a relationship with the wrong man that now I don't want to be with. I could be that sister that is the one sister that is eligible for divorce because I couldn't contain myself and went and did something I shouldn't have done. I want you sisters to think about that. I want you sisters to be willing to find you a counselor before you find you a man. Most people, they already entangled, if you will, and they just trying to skate through life and figure it out before they get caught. You're going to get caught. It's going to come to light. You will be the next Jada Pinket having to explain yourself in front of others if you're not careful. And by careful, I mean if you don't do the righteous thing and wait until marriage to get into a sexual situation. Now I'm doing it. Wait until marriage to have sex. But not only that, wait until you're mature and responsible and you fix yourself before you go and entangle yourself with somebody else. And you brothers got the same issues. You're not ready to take care of a wife. You have never had a job. You've never paid a bill. You've never done anything on your own and helped someone. So how are you going to take on the responsibility of being someone's provider? The encouragement is that you learn something out of this situation so that you don't end up with the Will Smith face, brothers. So that you don't end up embarrassed in front of everybody and doing things that are unbecoming of a Israelite woman, sisters. That's what the goal is.
The idea of any relationship and trying to get to deeper understanding of love is going to be forged in fire.
Yeah.
There's no way around it.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things that I'm deeply grateful in this whole process between you and I is that we have really gotten to that new place of unconditional love.
Because I wasn't sure I was ever going to speak to you again.
I know.
Yeah, like the fact that I'm speaking to you.
And the thing is, you should have unconditional love to a certain extent and be able to forgive and work through all of your issues. But this is that one issue you don't want to have to get in front of and forgive. God said this is the thing that gets you the opportunity for divorce. You can't go back to that polluted land. So I admire the fact that they have this relationship to where they can work through things. But why did it get to the point in which they were through? And now that they're coming back and working things out, it's through adultery.
Again, is a miracle.
I would agree.
No, but it ain't for the weak at heart. There's just certain things that you have to go through, and it's like...
And I wish, I wish that wasn't the case. I do. I wish that wasn't the case.
I sure wish it could be all magic and miracles.
Yeah. You got to go through some to get the answers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just happy because I definitely believe that you and I, we never, ever, ever thought that we would make it back.
Yeah, there's a real power in just knowing somebody's riding with you no matter what.
Yeah.
And you really can't know that
until you go
through some stuff, I don't want to go through this no more.
Yeah, no, I don't either.
Yeah. I'm going to get you back first. And then
you're gonna get me back. I think you got me back. I think we're good on that, okay?
Okay, that's probably true.
But
so right there we see that the brother more than likely has definitely had his fair share of adulterous moments. But nonetheless, the scriptures don't create that same caveat as even though, Connecticut law would do. And it's important to bring that up because reminder for you young sisters, the world has taught us that we got certain liberties. That was the same liberty that Eve thought that she had, which was that she's equal and has the same role and rights and permissions and allowance from God as the man. However, while you may equally share responsibility in your relationship, you have roles that differ, rules that differ, judgments that differ. And so you can't call it equal. You can call it this is yours and this is mine. In a sense, you can look at it as, separate but equal. And you equally have an opportunity to get the kingdom. You both have an opportunity. That's all I mean. You equally can sin or not sin, do the right thing or do the wrong thing. But, there's a question that a lot of people ask is should it be 50-50? Or should the husband submit? Or should the wife submit? But for me, there's no such thing as 50-50. You each have 100% of a job that you need to do. And just because one person is not doing their job doesn't mean you do less of your job. Everybody got a job to do and everybody has to do it. And for anybody slacking, it should be encouraged that you step it up and fulfill your duty. We'll go more into that in a moment.
I don't think it's about getting anybody back.
No, for me it is.
Okay. I'll give you that petty if that's what you want.
They laughing at you.
But, I will definitely say it's just part of it.
Yeah.
If you expect to be with somebody for a lifetime.
25 years and counting.
We ride together.
We die together.
Bad marriage for life.
Like, was that scripted?
That's terrible.
It's the truth.
That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. That bothers me. I don't want to see a brother and a sister go through this. I don't want to see God's chosen people in front of the world showing their transgressions. I don't want the nations to be making fun of it. Someone said when they go on this network that's ran by the other nations and bring this out. I don't want to see that. I want us to see that the scriptures come true and they say what a wise nation this is. But yet we're not seeing that. We're seeing all of our foolishness and weakness. And I know I'm going a little long today, but it is what it is. So we got to talk about one more thing. Here we go. One thing that I can't stand to hear is the story of happy wife, happy life. When I go to the store or when I make major purchasing decisions, everyone is expecting that I need my wife to make the decision, that I don't have the authority to make decisions as the man of the house. That's what the nations feel like. Oh, you buying a car? Well, do you need to get your wife here to help you make the decision? No, I don't. And it's not that I don't respect my wife's opinion, but maybe I've already discussed it with her, and maybe I'm making an executive decision, which, as the head of the household, I make those decisions. The question, the statement about 50-50 and whatnot, a lot of times that goes into who makes the decisions. Well, that has nothing to do with who makes the decisions, in my opinion. God has already ordained in 1 Corinthians 11 that the head of the house is the man. Let's go there real quick. 1 Corinthians 11 and 3. It says, but I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. There's a divine order that things go into. So, with that being said, the man need to be happy too. Instead of happy wife, happy life, it should be happy spouse, happy house. And so this article is basically saying that the happy man, happy wife, happy life, is spot on and true. And a wife's happiness in the marriage has the power to overtake a husband's unhappiness. Well, Will looks very unhappy. And she feels better now that she's done her entanglement, but he still looks unhappy. You know, the studies really are not going into a biblical lifestyle. The studies are not going into a truthful marriage. The studies are going into the society that we live in now and how it is ungodly and unbiblical. There's no 50-50. There's 100% of you doing you and me doing me in our respective roles. And the thing that I want you to understand is, if Christ is telling us that we got to count the cost, in Luke 14:28, for which of you intending to build a tower sitteth not down first and counteth the cost? You don't want to get married at too young of an age without counting the cost. Do you realize that you're bound to that man for as long as you live? And for you sisters who didn't got, in your past relationship, because I know it's not happening now, right? You were being abused. You were being hit. But then you stay with the man, and then you marry the man, and you make babies with the man. Should have counted the cost, because now that's who you've entangled yourself with. You know, and important to understand Ephesians 5:23. Matter of fact, we'll read a little bit of Ephesians. But in Ephesians 5:23, it says, for the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the Savior of the body. It's important because there's a divine order. And that's why 50 Cent could say what he said. Then she said only she can give permission. Well, as the head, you should have authority. And I'm not saying authority to say, oh, you can go have sex with another man, but to say that husbands do give permission. It says in verse 21, submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of God. A lot of people will argue, well, the man submits and the woman submits. Yeah, but understand the context. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife. You're submitting to a head, to someone who has authority over you, who is actually a savior to you, and synonymous to Christ and the church, he is to you. For a husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the Savior of the body. Therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, so let the wives be subject unto their own husbands in everything. See, Christ is not looking to hear you say, oh, no, we 50-50. You subject unto me too. Christ is subject unto you because he is willing to give himself for you. Verse 25, husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it. Meaning you have certain obligations to fulfill because you are the husband. However, it doesn't place you in a submissive, subservient role. It places you in the head role with a lot of high responsibility. That he may sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of the water by the word. You're trying to be cleansed, but you become polluted through adultery, and that takes away the opportunity to cleanse. So, that's midweek meditations for the week. That Will and that Jada love. Y'all don't want that. Y'all don't want that. That's not a role model. These are not relationship goals. Your relationship goals should be out of the Bible. Your relationship goals should be set as a precedence through the criteria that God gave. But so many of us, our relationship goals are full of sin. And while I can't deny that Jada and Will in popular culture have definitely looked like model relationships in certain cases from a worldly standpoint, they're not that. A model relationship is Abraham and Sarah. You know, these are opportunities for us to look at the Bible and say, what do we want? And understand that even they had trouble in the flesh, but Lord forbid that it be adultery. So I want to encourage y'all to meditate on that. Go back and meditate on all the marriage classes, meditations. That's what it's all about, midweek meditation, getting yourself together. A lot of us are too entertained by what's going on in pop culture as opposed to learning from others' mistakes. Pop culture got a lot going on right now. Celebrities are in the news right now, but it's distracting you from what you really need to do, which is repent. So with that, I want to let y'all know, midweekmeditations.com to catch up on previous meditations. Reminder that we're on a break from my team putting out daily verses and quizzes. So go catch up on the old ones. Share the old ones and show value so that I can bring the team back to the table, because I'm giving them a break to give them an opportunity to focus on getting themselves together. I'm giving them a break because there's a lot of work to be done and few laborers. So I can't overwork them. I'm giving them a break because, a lot of us are so distracted by foolishness that we don't utilize the righteous platforms that we have. So start sharing, start interacting, start using that. And don't forget, you can donate by going to midweekmeditations.com/donations. You'll see that in the menu bar, donations menu bar as well. And your donations have gone a long way. With that, I'm going to let you guys go. So shalom. Have a great day. Learn from it. Learn from it.